So, it's time then that we take a look at my idea of the Sonic Movie 8. And I gotta say, I'm pretty excited for this one. I think that all the ideas that I've got for it work really well. But before we dive into the idea, I think it would be a interesting idea if I talk about the message of the film. Since it's been a couple of films since the first one, the message of Sonic Movie 8 will be about change. And I think this would be a good idea as it's something that Sonic has not experienced. As some of his friends, mostly Tails, Knuckles and Amy, are going off on their own as separate paths. They've got different journeys ahead. And Sonic wants to be a part of them, but for some reason he feels that they don't need him anymore. And I think this could be an interesting dynamic to go down for Sonic. I was also draw inspirations mostly from the cutscenes from Sonic Frontiers, his interactions with Amy, Knuckles, and especially Tails. Because I really like those, it really dives in and shows that these characters have grown up across the nearly 30 history of the franchise. But let's talk about the villain of the film. You're probably wondering why I chose Infinite instead of Villainous. Well, there's an explanation or reason why. As Villainous, I kind of have to be honest, I really don't know how to incorporate Villainous into a story about change. Plus, he barely interacts with Sonic in Sonic 06. And he's more of a villain tied more to Shadow and Silver rather than Sonic, so I just don't think that would work. But hey, maybe perhaps something else could come up. But hey, I chose Infinite because he has reality bending powers in the form of the Phantom Ruby, which can warp reality, which I think would make an interesting sort of opposite for Sonic in the film. I also want to incorporate the Jackal Squad into the story, as I believe that to be a big part of Infinite's character, and it's something that they only appeared in the Forces comic and we didn't get to know much about them. And they all have names as well, Uno, Dos, Tres and Cuatros, obviously being the Spanish numbers. And I really like this idea. Imagine that most of them would have their own personalities and sort of traits that make them unique, and that they could be similar to Sonic's friends. In a way, that Infinite is like Sonic, and then, well, the ideas could really the possibilities could be endless with Infinite, giving him a tragic backstory to show that, yeah, he's evil, but there was a time when he wasn't, and that he's scared of something, change. That's why the Phantom Ruby was perfect for him. He could literally keep that world the same without making any change. So, let's get started. I'm Knuckles Productions 360, and this is the Sonic Movie 8 idea. Our story would open up with a flashback of Super Silver taking down the Time Eater as he harnesses all of his energy together to destroy it once and for all, with flashbacks of his past showing. However, Eggman on the inside would be trying to overload the Death Egg's reactor to completely annihilate the Time Eater. And as he does, a blast of energy wipes out the two. However, Eggman remains in a white space. As he scans the nearby area using his pad, he deduces that he either is dead, or the fact that he is alive but stuck somewhere, separate from time and reality. And as he begins to look around, he then notices another version of himself, and the two of them would start bickering. This obviously starts then multiplying to having multiple Eggmans start bickering with each other, and this would obviously be a reference to the kind of ending bit of Sonic Generations where both classic and modern are stuck in the void, in the white space, and they're just kind of stuck there. We don't know how they get out, and they're just kind of just blaming each other for the failed plan, which, to be honest, was quite funny when we saw it first. And so, after that little incident, Eggman begins to wonder what to do. He kind of feels stuck. As he records in on his doctor's log, he continues to mention how much he failed at everything. He stopped the Time Eater, of course, but that power could have been used to save the world or undo the fact of Sonic. Just then a portal opens up, a purple portal, and out steps a masked figure who approaches the Doctor. He asks him that he requires his assistance, and where did he get that quill? Robotnik decides to do the same trick on Knuckles by saying it's on Earth. And so, the Sonic Movie 8 title screen shows. The movie would start off with, of course, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles and Amy going about in the city of New York, exploring the nearby areas. However, just then bank robbers decide to rob a bank, and they would do their normal thing. They would fight off some of the other, robbers, and they would chase down the escape car. And luckily, they do manage to grab and stop the robbers. Sonic would run up the buildings constantly and would jump from side to side. Amy would whack one of the drains, which causes the water to flood up, which causes the car to stop. Knuckles manages to pick up the car to make sure that it's not damaged, and Tails manages to hack in some of the electronics that they're using. They then pull out a bunch of, Robotnik tech. It's actually Robotnik tech that the buyer from the Knuckles show made. Some of it is still around across the world. And Sonic is surprised to see it. In fact, Knuckles is even more surprised. But they do manage to avoid some of the attacks they're giving out. Tails manages to reprogram some of the machinery. And after that, it all sort of stops. They are defeated. And Team Sonic celebrates with some chili dogs. With of course Amy mentioning that tomorrow is Sonic's birthday, and that what does he really want? But Sonic says he doesn't need anything. This is all he needs. Everything is perfect about today. Everything is. And that he wouldn't change anything and wants this to last forever. And Sonic and his friends toast to that. The next day, out in the open, Sonic gets surprised by everyone, by the Wachowskis, Tails and Knuckles, and Amy. They're all happy that Sonic's with them, as they said that, they're doing very good. Sonic is surprised and he sees some of the gifts he's been given. These include one of them being a snorkel, which is a reference to one of the classic games. He also got, of course, the old retro shirt from the OVA, and so much more. And Amy gives him a gift as well. It's like a little desk photo of her and Sonic. And Sonic finds this sweet and thanks her. Tails then talks to Sonic that he's actually planning to go somewhere. And Sonic says, "When do we leave?" But Tails says that he's going on his own, which Sonic gets caught off guard by, as he and as well as Amy and Knuckles, they say that they're gonna go their separate ways, just on a little adventure and then come back afterwards. Tom, recognizing what Sonic's going through, decides to talk to him about it. And he takes him towards, well, Sonic's cave to have a little talk. Sonic's a bit confused on what's going on, as he tries asking questions to Tails and everyone else. Tom says that he'd like to have a word with Sonic. Sonic goes over as usual, and they begin to talk. Meanwhile, Robotnik and Infinite manage to get back to Earth. Robotnik tells him that he knows where the Hedgehog is, as not only does Infinite says that finally he'll be able to challenge the strongest warrior in the galaxy, but he'll be able to claim the title as the most powerful being in the universe. However, Robotnik immediately says yeah, before saying that he needs a little something to, battle. And Infinite ends up creating something out of illusions, being the Death Egg robot from the Sonic movie 2. And Robotnik says, "Perfect." As he gets into it, they head off. Tom then talks to Sonic about what's going on. He says that when he was a kid, he had 3 other friends, and when they got older, they kind of drifted apart. They went their own separate ways. And while they would come around to see him, they would most likely have a life of their own. And that, to Sonic, everyone's growing up, and he can't run from that forever. That's something he can never escape. Just then, Sonic tells Knuckles, Amy, Tom and Maddie all hear a noise stumbling in the forest. A massive Death Egg robot shows up. In fact, there's actually 3 of them, as they begin to crumble on before finding Sonic. And Robotnik's one that he's controlling, well, he fires out a flamethrower and traps Team Sonic in a ring of fire, while laughing maniacally, claiming out that not only are they stuck, but he's got a new friend for them to meet. As Infinite shows up to the occasion, Sonic is a bit confused and says that since Robotnik took a bit of a break that they defeated the Time Eater, but Robotnik says that he's very much aware, but now he's back and ready to conquer. And Infinite takes one look at Sonic. So, this is the greatest warrior in the galaxy, the strongest of them all. Sonic then jokes saying, yeah, that's Knuckles' position. But Infinite says that it's clearly Sonic, as he is one of the most powerful. His energy caused the signature sent across the whole galaxy and alerted him to its presence. Infinite says that this battle is between you and me, not your friends. As Infinite then summons the Phantom Ruby, he then uses one of the Phantom Ruby hands and picks Tails, Knuckles and Amy up and makes them deal with Robotnik. Sonic then tells him what did he do, to which Infinite said, "Nothing to be concerned of. Now come, face me if you dare," as he points at Sonic. Sonic then charges up his energy and says, "Okay then, if you insist," before dashing at top speed, almost breaking the sound barrier. And as he does, about to punch Infinite, well, he does punch him, but then everything turns all to black. And suddenly, the entire sort of area begins to warp all around Sonic, including with buildings and different areas. Everything's all upside down, broken, and fiery. Sonic's confused on what's going on before trying to navigate this weird, confusing world, with Infinite's voice mocking him in the background. He tells him that welcome to null space. This is his domain, his realm of chaos. Sonic even says that this is getting ridiculous. The multiverse things are really dumb. And Infinite just says, "Do you ever shut up?" And Sonic says, "Probably not," and continues to mock him. Infinite throws everything he's got, from cubes, lasers, to warping the buildings. However, Sonic breaks through and hits Infinite, ending the transmission. In the real world, Eggman's using the Death Egg robot to crush, well, the team. However, they all manage to destroy it. And Eggman is seen, well, trying to use the flamethrower to crush them, burning through all. But the mech slowly disappears thanks to Influence illusions beginning to, well, break down. And it turns back to nothing. And Eggman holds on to Infinite's foot before activating his jetpack that's hidden on his back. He declares out to Sonic that he will be back before he contacts Agent Stone, and tells him that he will need a ship to pick him up, him and his new ally. Agent Stone is happy to hear that Dr. Robotnik's alive, and tells him that he'll send one right away. As he then presses a button, a massive egg drone ship shows up and opens up its hatch door, and Dr. Robotnik enters on in with Infinite, and the two fly away. Infinite is surprised, but he wants more. He wants to go back as he could get them. But Robotnik tells him that they should regroup, gather forces, and, in other words, defeat Sonic with their forces. Meanwhile, back with the Wachowskis and Sonic, he would be sort of confused on what's going on, as even Sonic's friend, even Tails and Knuckles, are a bit confused. What exactly is he? Who is Infinite, and why is Eggman working with him? Tails has no idea who he is. Amy doesn't either, or Knuckles. But there was something about him that looked familiar. The thing that was on his chest. Sonic mentions that he was in another realm almost. However, Knuckles says that he recognized what that thing on his chest was. It's called the Phantom Ruby. It's a powerful ruby that has the ability to alter realities, to create exceptions and tricks. And Knuckles found something on the floor when he was, well, searching for treasure. He discovered something that he had dropped. It's some kind of Phantom Ruby prototype. In the trees above, we would see two jackals watching. They would sort of do a signal, they would do a hand signal to communicate. And one of them would speak, telling them to refer to the boss, that they found hints of Infinite here, and that the Hedgehog will lead them to Infinite.